All right, welcome to Breaking Business Barriers, episode number 89. Sitting and hanging out with me, like usual, is Jared Ty, Buy with Ty. By the way, he's a real estate guru, along with myself, Brent Duhaime, and we'll get into announcing our guest. Can't wait to have that guy uh, chat because he can let her rip tater chip. Before we do that, let's Jared, let's do a couple shout outs to some of the folks that have been on our Breaking Business Barriers previously. Coach Kyle Draper, creator of content and compound marketing. Great dude. Awesome dude. You'll see him everywhere on social media. Brandon Straza, our guest knows him pretty well. Podcast host of the Mastermind Effect. Then our last shout out for those of us in real estate, in and around real estate, lending and beyond. Troy Garris, he has a really good show. Comes up on YouTube and or LinkedIn. You can find him on LinkedIn. Certainly, Troy Garris, mortgage banking live stream. He's a good dude, super knowledgeable guy. Well, let's get into the honor roll here, or the honorable mention. I don't know what we'll call him, King Tut, something to that effect. Hey, welcome to the show, Bryan. Bryan Bergjans. Let me also tell you what Bryan does, and then he can share a little bit more about what it is that where he is today, what has brought him to that point. For you entrepreneurs and military, either active or former, I think you're going to love this piece. He's SVP, National Director of Military and Veteran Lending for Caliber Home Loans, and he's doing a great job over there. Great advocate for his company as it relates to military and veteran lending. Bryan, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Obviously, your other guest didn't show up, so you picked me, so I appreciate it. But I'll take it either way.
You will always have been good in a pinch over all the years that I've known you. Hey, we're first and foremost, let's remind everyone, Bryan, where we can find you.
Hey, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to get me, and it's basically Bryan Bergjans. I didn't do any trickery. I know some people put like an initial first and their last name. It's just Bryan Bergjans. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you want to talk to me, just hit me up with a message. I get back to everybody. So.
That's right, and that's Bryan Bryan Bergjjan, as
Excellent.
in Nancy. Did I remember that after all these years? B.
Yes, you did. Except don't forget the S at the end. Bergjans.
Oh yeah. You know what? Yeah, I knew I was going to leave myself hanging out to dry.
That's all good.
Well, hey, let's get into what you're doing as an SVP, and then we'll jump into some other things. We'll share some laughs over the next 20-25 minutes. But man, what is it? That's a whole mouthful of a title. What it is that you're doing? Share it
Yeah,
with
we
us.
wanted to make it bigger, but it wouldn't fit on a business card. So, uh, you know, I always tell people now, after 5 years of carrying this torch at Caliber, I have the honor, it's the honor and privilege of representing my organization on all things military and veteran related. Um, so, for example, I work with our retail folks and anybody who's customer facing on how to work better with military and veteran customers. But then I also work with servicing our customers. And then the best thing that I really think that I do for our organization is also how we work with our own team members that are military and veterans, right? So when I started at Caliber almost 5 years ago, I dated Caliber for about 7 months before committing to coming over. And I just got back from Afghanistan on a deployment, and Caliber was looking to. They felt it was the right time for them to get involved with the military and veteran community. So we created a business plan, a 3-year plan, basically on how we would do that, right? So starting with nothing, except a great company with a great reputation, and now how do we become, top of mind when it comes to working with military and veterans? And the crazy part is a lot of people don't understand this, but they just want to turn the switch on and say, hey, we're committed to helping military and veterans tomorrow, and start hanging the signs up. The reality is, with an organization, I don't care if it's 10 people or 6,000 people that work there, you can't go out and claim to be something when you don't even appreciate the people that work for you that serve, right? So it seems kind of fraudulent and very not very sincere to go and say we're the best at helping military and veterans when you've never think that works for you, right? So we had to do a forensic analysis of the company inside and started creating initiatives, very patriotic initiatives, internal initiatives that would spark the patriotism from everybody and get people to self-identify and say, hey, you know what? I'm actually a vet, I served. And the transformation, it takes time. It's not something you just, hit the light switch and it's there. I mean, it takes time. You got to build trust. You got to build trust with your own team members. But the beautiful thing about the whole thing is when you do establish a great culture around, supporting military and your military team members and hiring military and hiring spouses, that front stuff, that front of the house, working with military and veteran customers, that's easy because it's spewing from every part of your body when you're out talking to them because you are 100% confident that your organization backs you up, right? And then everything about, testimonials and everything else support that kind of stuff. So it was almost a 5-year transformation to where we're at today. And we don't fall asleep at the wheel either. We're always working 3 years out. Like, a couple of things that we got going on now is, creating a military spouse council, a council made up of military spouses from every branch of the service that will help us and guide us during, because the military is always changing. I'll give you an example with COVID, right? You had what, 400,000 military families that couldn't relocate. That caused a problem. You know what I mean? And us as lenders, right, that are committed to the dream of home ownership for military folks, we need to better understand their pain points and what they're going through so we can better serve them when the stuff starts loosening up a little bit, right? So having folks on that side of the fence that you can call, as part of your like internal board of directors or your council or whatever to help advise you on how to better serve those people is a difference between an organization that gets it and an organization that doesn't. So we're really proud of that kind of stuff. So just to kind of close this out. So my job is everything and anything you can think of military and veteran related. I work with a lot of nonprofits. Earlier today, before this call, I was able to donate 2 service dogs for one of our Gold Star family customers that just closed on a second house with us. We found out it was a Gold Star family. And so I did a FaceTime with the mom and dad, and we decided as an organization we don't get a lot of opportunity to show our gratitude to Gold Star families. So when you do, you gotta come with something. And we donated 2 service dogs in the name of their son today, just as a small token of gratitude for his selfless service to this nation. So that's the kind of stuff that we do. We don't ask for pats on the back for it. It's just in our DNA, and that's what I think why we are, when it comes to working with military and veterans, we're the real deal.
So 5 years in the making. Are you having fun?
Oh, it is everything that I could have imagined. Brent, you and I have known each other a long time. This has actually been something that's been a passion of mine since 2007, 2008. And, for whoever's listening to this, who's sitting there thinking to themselves, I'm passionate about something. I believe in what I'm doing, but no one else does. And some of the things that are happening don't support me continuing down this path. I strongly consider you to stay true to yourself, stay committed to the process, and stick with your passion, because I've had more people tell me no and tell me that helping military and the military demographic was not a good bet and was not something that would be sustainable in the mortgage industry. and that I was basically chasing nothing. And I didn't believe any of them. I stayed true to myself and knew that it was an underserved demographic because I still served in that demographic. And I chased my dream. And, it took me a while to find the right home, but I eventually did. So, it's been longer than 5 years in the making. It's a funny story because you sit there and go, when you see people successful, you're like, oh, well, that must have been easy. No, no, man, this was freaking 13, 14 years in the making. You know what I mean? I just finally crossed paths with another organization who believed in me as I believed in them as being the right fit. And then that's when the magic happened. And now you see, what we do today. So I
That's
couldn't have done
fantastic.
it. I definitely couldn't have done it without the people at Caliber who, you know, saw something in me and said that, at that time I was, 38 years old. And they were like, we want this guy to be the face of the franchise when it comes to the military. Right. So I take that's why I appreciate them and I work my tail off every single day as a good, ambassador for Caliber and the military.
Bryan, I think it's awesome what you're doing, and I think you hit the nail on the head that there are a lot of organizations that will say, "Oh, hey, we're the military-friendly company," but you can really tell the difference between someone who understands, the military lifestyle and needs and just ways that we can help, and someone who is just using it as kind of a marketing gimmick. I have a question for you. What are ways that just average, civilian families can help? What are things that normal people can do to show their appreciation for our service members?
Well, one of the things that I've always said, and it's been something that it's a proven concept, that the best way that you can give back to the military and veteran demographic is with your time, right? Monetary contributions is, everybody can do that, but donating your time, rolling your sleeves up in your own community with organizations who are touching the military every day. You could go volunteer at the USO. There's a lot of local community organizations that service military and veterans. And I've always said this, and it's been my philosophy at Caliber. I don't like doing national one size fits all initiatives. I really don't, because I think it makes a lot more sense for Jared and Brent to work with people in their own backyard and see their time and their effort, because their time is money, go to work and see the rewards of that in their own backyard, which is extremely important. And especially when you want to build relationships with like-minded individuals who have the same passion around helping military and veterans in your community.
That was a great question, Jared, and B, you just nailed it. Given that time and your experience in what you've done, you've given time before your position as SVP, no doubt, and your commitment. Tipping my cap to you, my friend. That means a lot. And I have not served. I have plenty of friends like yourself that either are serving or have served, and it's opened my eyes over the years. And you're doing that with an entire company and beyond. And I like that local market. Yeah, get out there and get active in it. It's I've done it. It's fun. It's super rewarding, and that I don't know that anyone is more appreciative when you go out and hang out and do some volunteering with servicemen and women. All right.
It's I'll give you one example. This is a great example. So I have a passion for teaching people about the VA benefit, right? And that's something I started a long time ago. And someone, believe it or not, believed in me to do it, and I would have never have ever saw myself as being a person standing in front of a room of 150 people talking about, a benefit, right? But someone believed in me at that time, and I seems to be a common denominator in my story that I've had a lot of people that saw something in me along the way. But so one of these classes I was teaching, it was National Association of Realtor just came out with their military relocation professional designation. And I was actually one of the original 13 to teach the class. And it's this real long, it's a great class, don't get me wrong, great class, but it's a real long all day event, right? And so, and it's basically, I'm a lender and I'm teaching a bunch of realtors. So I'm basically going to a gunfight with a knife, right? I'm probably out of the, 85 people there, I'm the 86th best mortgage person in that room, right? Because that's just how it works. And Jared, right? So funny story, we're going through everything and, I'm hitting them with content, but then I'm also coming back with like, you got to roll your sleeves up in the community, because everybody wants to know, okay, I got this great designation, but now what do I do with it? Like, how do I get in front of the people that I want to do business with? And the easy answer was volunteer, right? So after the class was over, I had 17 realtors stay. 17 stayed after class and they all huddled around and they're like, we want to get involved in the community, have no idea how to. So the ed director at SLAR was staying right there. Her name's Karen Dunn, freaking one of the greatest human beings on the planet. She said, hey, why don't you guys come back here next week? I'll give you the conference room, the boardroom, and you guys can brainstorm. We'll call this group our MRP alumni group, and you guys can just go to town with community outreach. I go, that sounds great. We came back. There was all of us in the room. We decided after a long conversation that we would volunteer and adopt the 300 veterans staying at the local veterans home. Okay. Now, here's where the magic happens. You got 18 people, me and 17 realtors. We go and we just, close upon this veterans home, right? They knew we were coming. We sat down and talked. And we said, hey, we'd love to adopt all the veterans for Christmas, if that's possible. And they were like, oh my God, this is great because the veterans, 75% of these people have no visitors, ever. So now we're like, this is divine intervention, like we did definitely pick the right thing. So when we started, this started in 2014. When we started, it was 18 of us. We got the list from all the vets, and it was socks, underwear, stuff like that. Fast forward, we got over 1,000 volunteers now who go to this veterans home. Now the wish list is DVD players, laptops, and everything else, and they get it. And they absolutely get it. We do bingos there once a month. High cash prizes. We have Redbird coming in that place. It's turned into one of the biggest community things here in St. Louis in the real estate community. And it's unbelievable. Channel 5 News has been there now. We've had other directors from the veterans homes come there to check out what's going on. And it started with just 18 people who wanted to give back in a local community after taking the class, right? And now it's just good deed, goodwill. I don't even have to even do anything anymore. It just runs itself. It's the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. And these vets get adopted in less than 30 seconds. A lot of the realtors have relationships with the veterans at the home now. And I'm telling you, the coolest part about the whole process was getting to know the vets. And there was guys there from Band of Brothers. Hollywood came and interviewed one of the residents there. He was literally at the Eagle's Nest trying to drink all of Hitler's liquor. He's 4 months. This guy was 4 months at the Eagle's Nest with his group, and he said we didn't make a dent in that thing.
That'll be for another show.
Yeah. So but look at that. It was, you want to know, that's just the kind of stuff that can happen when a bunch of people just say, okay, let's commit to doing something local. And we found something that everybody was passionate about. And then after we got involved in it, it just went into something that's, they don't have to worry about doing anything for the vets there. We have people now go there and take the vets out on fishing excursions. and stuff throughout the year. It's turned into a year-long, volunteer effort to make sure that these people at this home, because they're all terminal, basically, right? The life expectancy of a vet in a veterans home is right around 2.5 to 3 years. And, you got people there all the time now trying to make it, this last 3 years of a ride for these guys and gals the best ever. And it's unbelievable.
Well, high fives to those 17 that really took it seriously, along with Karen Dunn. I'm going to remember that name, my friend. She sounds like you said, one of the best humans ever, for sure. Before we wrap up, Breaking Business Barriers is really founded on the fork of the road. So we have entrepreneurs, wannabe entrepreneurs, which is people that are in training. Everyone's at a particular fork of the road, and we've all had multiple forks in the road, some bigger than others, but I know you have one particular fork of the road that you maybe want to be talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my fork in the road, it would be, like being who I am today and what I do for a living and advocacy and stuff. So dating back to 1994, right? 17 years old, senior year of high school. My neighbor had wanted to be in the military his whole life. His dad was retired Air Force. That's all this guy talked about, right? So one day he comes to the house and he's like, "Hey, Bryan, can you go to the recruiter's office with me on Saturday? Because if I take you with me to the recruiter's office, I can go into boot camp an extra pay grade higher." And I looked at him and I said, "I had no idea what you're talking about because I didn't know crap about the military." And I'm third generation. Like my grandfather served in World War II in Korea. My dad was a paratroop, 82nd Airborne, but I didn't know most of that stuff because I grew up in a single parent household. My dad wasn't around. So I didn't really know my own family, history with the military. So I had no idea what he's saying. And I go, "You know what?" He goes, "I just need you just to do what you do." Because I've always been to the guy that could have a conversation with somebody, and I've only met him for like 2 minutes, right? So he's like, "You just do what you do and it'll all work out." And my mom, believe it or not, goes, "Yeah, you got to go help him out, Bryan. Go help him out. Go help him out." And I go, "Okay." So comes picks me up on Saturday. We roll down to the recruiter's office, and I'll never forget it too because it was a Saturday. There was nobody there. We walked past all the other branches of service, Army, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, and there's this guy staring right at me. And back in those days, the Navy had an all black uniform with a tie. They called it the Johnny Cashes because it looked like Johnny Cash, just straight up tie, everything else. And walking up, and he's like, my neighbor Steve goes, "This is Bryan, this guy I was telling you about." He's like, "Hey, Bryan, I'm Petty Officer so-and-so, come on in." And we sit down, and he looks at me and he goes, "You know what? You look like one of those guys that I could sit here and just try to sell this thing to you all day. But you look like a visual learner. So hold on, let me get something for you." So he reaches in his desk, pulls out this book that's literally about this thing. And I didn't know what it was. He sets it on the desk, turns it around, slides it to me, opens up the first page, which is literally him and all his buddies in Australia at a bar with a bunch of ladies. So he's like, "Hey, you look through those while I help, Steve out real quick. We got some paperwork to do." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm flipping through these pages. And it's just literally like spring break city on every photo that I flip through. And so he comes back to me and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "so what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? What do you do?" I go, "Well, I play sports and I'm a lifeguard." And everybody knows back in the 90s, it was Baywatch, right? David Hasselhoff, the Baywatch people. That's why I wanted to be a lifeguard. I was in a program at my high school where it was called lifeguarding, where you showed up every morning and you literally went and did lifeguard training for an hour and a half, and then went to class. And you did it for, your whole high school life. And my teacher at the time was a Marine Corps guy, and he would literally try to drown you at the bottom of the pool any chance he got. And you'd come up, you couldn't breathe and stuff. He's like, "You got to take this stuff serious because if you go out to someone panicking, they're going to try to drown you." And I'm like, "Man, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm like 16 years old. Like, I don't see this happening." But anyway, so the recruiter's like, I go, "Well, I love lifeguard. I'm a lifeguard and I play sports, play baseball." And he goes, "Oh, you're a lifeguard?" He goes, "Oh." He goes, "How would you like to be the lifeguard of the ocean?" I go, man, that sounds like a great deal. I would love to be the lifeguard of the ocean. Let's talk more about being lifeguard of the ocean. He goes, well, we got a program called Search and Rescue Swimmer. And then next you know, 3 hours later, I'm leaving the recruiter's office with my neighbor. We get in the car and he goes, hey man, I'm good to go on that extra pay grade. Great job. He goes, but what the heck? 3 hours, man? He goes, man, you don't think you could have ended that a little earlier? I go, hey man, I'm in. He goes, what? I go, no, I'm in. He goes, oh, good luck telling your mom. I go, no, I'm really in. I'm signing up. And he goes, okay, well, good luck telling your mom. We show up to my house. I walk in the door. My mom goes, hey, how was it? I go, it was great. You got the extra pay grade. She goes, great. I go, I'm joining the Navy. She goes, the hell you are? I go, no, I'm serious. She goes, I'm serious too, over my dead body. And literally it was back and forth for 6 months until I finally convinced her that joining the military was something that I needed and wanted to do. And funny part is, because of, I was, always with the in crowd and all that stuff growing up, and I had a little bit of an ego at the time when I was that age. I'll be the first one to admit it. And my mom really looked at me and just said, "Hey, you know what? You're an only child. You don't know about team player stuff. There's a good chance you'd be the first one sent home when you get there." And little did she know that when I showed up to boot camp 3 weeks later, my neighbor would be the first one sent home because he couldn't handle it and I could handle it. Matter of fact, it was an easy day because my coaches that I grew up playing sports for, these drill instructors didn't have anything on them. They were old school coaches. Yelling was part of their DNA. You know what I mean? So when I got there, the yelling part really didn't faze me any, and it changed me as a human being. I went there, got to meet people that, shamefully would say that probably in high school I would have never gave the time of day to and talked to, just because it wasn't just, that's just how high school is. But because we all had shaved heads, wearing the same ugly ass uniform, looking like idiots, and in the same scenario, we got to know everybody for who they are. And man, it literally, I'm not kidding when it says it changed me. It changed me as a person. When I came home from leave from military and then on board, man, I had so many people telling me I was a changed human being, and it helped me just in everything. I was socially just a better person, confident. Just the military is just a great thing. It's not for everybody, but for me, it was definitely the fork in the road. And I 1000% wouldn't be here and be half as the success I am if it wasn't for Uncle Sam. The other half goes to my wife.
Bryan, and great to have the support of Christina, by the way, your beautiful bride. That's amazing fork in the road. In fact, I think you took, that oak tree that's right there in the fork.
Yeah.
I think you plowed right through it without a chainsaw or anything. I think you just leveled it out. Bryan, that's a pretty great way to close. In fact, I've got goosebumps now thinking about your story. I've known you for a long time. Unfortunate, in fact, the first time these Saturday dates that you must have, with the military. I think the first time I met you, and in fact, I know it was a Saturday, and
Yeah,
I can tell you exactly where the three of us, another gentleman that we both know, were that particular day. But Bryan, I'm glad that you had a chance to meet Jared and share your story on breaking business barriers. And again, everyone has a fork in the road, and sometimes there feels like there's 4 or 5 of them in a month. But yours, you made a great choice, even though your mother may have not agreed with you at the time, and you wrestled with it for 6 months with her. She's just trying to protect her one and only. No doubt about it. I'd probably do the same thing as would Jared, and maybe even you would do the same thing. I'm not sure, B, but my friend, it's been great to have you on episode 89 of Breaking Business Barriers. What a great thing that you're doing. And, let's give a tip of the cap to everyone in uniform or who has previously worn those uniforms. And let's also not forget about all the first responders. 2020, as we're recording this towards the end of 2020, it's been a tough year. Talk about everybody in the front lines, and that's a lot of folks. And, the light hopefully is now shining at the end of the tunnel. We have something to look forward to above and beyond just the next day. Berg, again, we can find you on LinkedIn, Bryan Bergjans, You can find him easily. No doubt about it. Connect with him. I encourage you to do it if you're not already done so. And he's out on other pieces of social media. I know he's a frequent guest on a number of podcasts out there, and he likes to be able to get that word out there. Last comments, JT?
No, Bryan, I just wanted to say thank you for what you do. It's interesting how with veterans and active military members, the public perception, the level of respect, should always be high, but at different times, depending on the conflict, things like that, it varies. But what doesn't vary is the sacrifice that, the people are willing to make, the sacrifices that they do make. And, I think that's important for us to keep in mind, is whether it's, World War II or Vietnam or, Afghanistan, the sacrifice that you sign up for is the same. And I really appreciate that.
Right on. And, it's great that you're living your passion out here. I can't wait for your first book to come out, or maybe second. Maybe if I missed the first one, my bad.
I got to think of a title. Like, how'd I get here? That would be a good title.
It would be. It would be. And you would do great at it, by the way. And especially if you include that beautiful family of yours. Well, let's wrap up episode number 89 of Breaking Business Barriers. Bryan Bergjans, what a great guest. JT, thanks for being there as always. This is Brent Duhaime signing off, episode 89. And as always, it is definitely onward and upward. Peace out, everyone.
Cheers.